Welcome to Task and Tune, where we break down complex global issues that you can listen to while you're on the go, working, or just relaxing. In today's episode, we're taking an in-depth look at one of the most complex and intense geopolitical rivalries in the modern world, the ongoing conflict between Iran and Israel. From its historical roots to the current status in October 2024, we'll explore how this conflict has shaped the Middle East and its far-reaching impact on the global stage. The conflict between Iran and Israel has deep historical roots, but to understand its true complexity, we need to go back to the time before the 1979 Iranian Revolution. Surprisingly, Iran and Israel weren't always adversaries. In fact, under the leadership of the Shah, Iran maintained relatively friendly relations with Israel. Both countries were aligned with Western powers, particularly the United States, which saw them as key allies in the Middle East. However, things changed dramatically in 1979 when the Islamic Revolution swept through Iran. The overthrow of the Shah and the rise of Ayatollah Khomeini marked the beginning of a new era. Iran transformed into a theocratic Islamic state, and one of its core ideological stances was opposition to Israel. The new regime viewed Israel as a Western, colonial outpost in the heart of the Muslim world, and supporting the Palestinian cause became central to its foreign policy. After 1979, the animosity between Iran and Israel began to grow. Iran's support for militant groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza heightened tensions. Hezbollah, backed by Iran, emerged as a significant threat to Israel in the 1980s, especially during the Lebanon War. The group carried out attacks on Israeli targets and engaged in cross-border skirmishes that continue to this day. This period also saw Iran's increasing role in the broader Arab-Israeli conflict. While Iran is not an Arab country, it positioned itself as a champion of the Palestinian cause, providing financial and military support to groups fighting against Israel. This move further isolated Israel in the region, turning the conflict from a bilateral tension into a wider struggle with global dimensions. One of the most critical dimensions of the Iran-Israel conflict is the issue of nuclear weapons. Israel is widely believed to have developed its own nuclear arsenal, although it has never officially confirmed this. On the other hand, Iran's nuclear ambitions have been a source of concern for Israel and the international community for decades. In the early 2000s, suspicions grew that Iran was developing a nuclear weapons program under the guise of a civilian energy initiative. This led to sanctions and diplomatic efforts to curb Iran's nuclear ambitions, culminating in the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, also known as the Iran nuclear deal. However, Israel has always viewed any Iranian nuclear capability as an existential threat, given the hostile rhetoric from Tehran about the destruction of the Israeli state. The U.S. withdrawal from the JCPOA under President Trump in 2018 and the subsequent reinstatement of sanctions on Iran further strained the situation. Iran resumed enriching uranium, bringing it closer to the capability of developing nuclear weapons, which only heightened tensions with Israel. The Iran-Israel conflict is not just a direct confrontation. Much of it plays out through proxy wars across the Middle East. Iran has supported militant groups and regimes that oppose Israel, particularly Hezbollah in Lebanon and various militia groups in Syria. Israel, in turn, has launched numerous airstrikes on Iranian targets in Syria, aiming to prevent the establishment of Iranian military bases close to its borders. The Syrian civil war has been a major flashpoint in this proxy conflict. Iran's support for Bashar al-Assad's regime has led to increased Iranian military presence in Syria. Israel, concerned about Iranian entrenchment near its borders, has responded with airstrikes targeting Iranian military assets. This ongoing shadow war between Iran and Israel has only added layers of complexity to the already chaotic situation in the region. Beyond conventional military engagement, the Iran-Israel conflict has increasingly moved into the digital realm. Both nations have engaged in cyber warfare against each other, with Israel being linked to the Stuxnet virus, which targeted Iran's nuclear facilities in 2010. This sophisticated cyber attack significantly delayed Iran's nuclear program and marked the beginning of a new kind of warfare between the two nations. Iran, in response, has been suspected of conducting cyber attacks against Israeli infrastructure, including attempts to disrupt its water systems and financial institutions. This ongoing cyber battle adds a new dimension to their conflict, where the lines between war and peace are blurred, and attacks can happen in the shadows without clear attribution. Covert operations have also played a significant role in the conflict. Iran has accused Israel of assassinating several of its top nuclear scientists in recent years, acts which Israel has neither confirmed nor denied. These assassinations have escalated tensions and underscored the high stakes of the conflict, particularly over Iran's nuclear program. The Iran-Israel conflict is far from a bilateral affair. The United States has long been a key ally of Israel, providing military, financial, and diplomatic support. U.S. administrations, both Republican and Democratic, have backed Israel in its confrontations with Iran, particularly over the nuclear issue. The U.S. presence in the region, especially in Iraq and Syria, has often brought it into direct conflict with Iranian-backed militias. Russia, on the other hand, has a complex relationship with both Iran and Israel. While it has cooperated with Iran in supporting the Assad regime in Syria, Russia has also maintained good relations with Israel, especially when it comes to avoiding direct military confrontation. Russia has often acted as a mediator in the region, though its primary goal remains maintaining its influence in the Middle East. Countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, traditionally hostile to Israel, have recently shifted their approach. With the Abraham Accords in 2020, Israel normalized relations with the UAE, Bahrain, and Morocco. Saudi Arabia, while not officially part of the accords, has signaled a warming of relations with Israel. These developments have reshaped the dynamics of the region, with Israel and Sunni Arab states finding common cause against the perceived threat of Iranian expansionism. Meanwhile, European countries, particularly France, Germany, and the UK, have tried to play a balancing role, particularly in nuclear negotiations. These nations were part of the original JCPOA and have been working to salvage the deal despite U.S. withdrawal. As of October 2024, tensions between Iran and Israel remain high. Iran continues to enrich uranium at levels that bring it closer to developing a nuclear weapon, while Israel has ramped up both its diplomatic and military efforts to counter Iranian influence in the region. The Israel Defense Forces (IDF) have intensified airstrikes in Syria, targeting Iranian infrastructure, while Hezbollah has increased its presence on Israel's northern border. At the same time, the international community remains divided on how to address the issue. While the U.S. has maintained a hardline stance against Iran's nuclear ambitions, other countries have sought to bring Iran back to the negotiating table to prevent further escalation. The global impact of this conflict continues to grow, as oil prices fluctuate and regional stability remains precarious. The Iran-Israel conflict has a significant global impact, particularly in terms of energy security and geopolitical alliances. The Middle East remains a crucial region for global oil supplies, and any disruption caused by conflict between Iran and Israel could send shockwaves through global markets. Moreover, the conflict has implications for the broader geopolitical landscape, as nations around the world are forced to choose sides or navigate a delicate balance. In the broader context, the conflict also influences the arms race in the region, with countries like Saudi Arabia seeking advanced weapons systems to counter both Iran and Israel. The ongoing tension has also shaped U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East, with successive administrations grappling with how to manage both Israel's security concerns and the challenge of containing Iran's influence. In conclusion, the Iran-Israel conflict is far more than a simple bilateral dispute. It's a multidimensional struggle with deep historical roots, nuclear ambitions, regional proxy wars, and global ramifications. As we move further into 2024, the future of this conflict remains uncertain. Can diplomacy de-escalate the situation, or are we headed toward further confrontation? One thing is certain. The outcome of this struggle will continue to shape the Middle East and the global geopolitical landscape for years to come. Thanks for tuning in to Task and Tune, where we break down complex global issues in a way you can absorb while staying productive. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest deep dives into world affairs.